independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
In Flow meeting, large amount of smoke inside of AutoZone. Large amount of smoke.
608, we're taking rocks and bottles from the alcoves to the south of the theater that's directly to the south of the station.
Advise me, they started a fire in the rear on the east side of AutoZone here. We can see the smoke rising and the flames kind of going here. We're going to have to get that extinguished.
Yeah, that was last night. I tweeted out, I said, I just have a feeling we're heading towards Ferguson or a Baltimore. And while it has yet to rise to that level, I wouldn't. They're going to be out there tonight. It's happening in L.A. People are pissed. People are angry. Understandable. But don't give people fuel for the fire. And I'm not talking about what's going on with, oh, yeah, fuel for the fire. No. People are looking around. Everybody has taken notice right now. Everybody has. Part of that is because we live in a 24-hour news cycle where you have no choice but to watch the news because the majority of Americans are sitting at home and they see this and they're like, what in God's name has happened? What in God's name did this cop do? What were the other cops doing? How did this happen in broad daylight? And if it wasn't for somebody filming it, putting it out there, God knows if we'd ever seen it. And now that we've seen 20 other different angles, from that little ATM camera to some of the restaurants around there that had, CCTV, that's closed circuit television, for those of you not keeping score, and the lies and the BS, and you have everybody who's, from uber right-wing talk show hosts who are the kind of people that defend the police at all cost. And you go out and you're pissed. And all of a sudden, it takes one person to ignite some anger and some other people who are there not because of George Floyd, because chaos is interesting to them. And the next thing you know, people are like, ugh. It's frustrating. It is. It's frustrating. These guys are going to have the full extent of the law come down on them, much like they came down on Floyd. And it needs to happen. And it needs to be done in such a way that people can see that the system does work. And that while in the past it has failed, particularly people of color and poor people, that this is the way that this thing is going to go down, and it's going to happen in front of everybody to show, look, things aren't perfect, but this, white, black, gay, straight, Republican, progressive, Democrat, conservative, nobody is going to stand for this. But you can't do that. You can't. Saw some unrest in places like Los Angeles. And yet everybody has every right to be pissed. Everybody. From the people of color, people who've been through being pulled over while driving, black, profiled. You have every right to be absolutely pissed off. To the cops out there who should be pissed at fellow cops like this, who have made their jobs even tougher. But we can't have that. We can't. We cannot have that. And the sad thing is, a lot of times, it's very few people from that community. Very few people leave it. I was watching one person being interviewed last night who had no idea what happened, but they were there. And I was like, well, why are you there? It escalated quickly, and God willing, it won't happen again. God willing. But I just have a feeling that as people get more and more angry, people start to stew, You're going to start to see, people have already been stuck inside their homes. They're frustrated. Unemployment's through the roof. You've got this COVID thing. All of this stuff is happening. And then on top of that, you got two guys in Georgia, a father and a son, and another person who was filming who killed an unarmed black man who was taking a jog. And that was hidden for months. It's not a good situation. I just have a feeling it's bubbling up there. And God willing, that tonight, cooler, calmer heads prevail. But you don't know. But that look, we don't need that. Nobody needs that. And the sad thing is there are many people inside of that community who rely on those stores, who rely on those things, and who have done nothing and don't want to see their community hurt anymore, who are watching a lot of times, and it's not just here. I mean, you go, we can talk about the chaos and craziness of all kinds of people that come in and get involved in these things from outside of the community, and then it becomes a nightmare for the people inside of the community who have every right to be pissed. And then those people leave, and everybody else is left to pick up the aftermath. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. You can text the program as well. Oh, another day, another Thursday, another unemployment.
We expect to learn that an additional 2 million Americans filed new claims for unemployment benefits just last week. That would bring the 10-week total to more than 40 million Americans laid off in such a short span of time. And while the rate of job loss is slowing, it is still 10 times what we would see in a normal time.
Yeah. Insane. So we're now over 40 million since this pandemic started. So pandemic starts, unemployment, uber low. Essentially, we're at full employment. Now, 40 million people in about 9-10 weeks' time have lost their jobs. Lost their job. And I feel like as this thing goes on, we're going to stay steady between probably 1.7, 900,000, depending if there's a spike here and there, what's going to happen. You just don't know. And then the big question is, okay, these jobs, some of them are lost. Some of them people will gain back. And it's the lost jobs that you have to look at when we start the real opening, where people are in, we're in phase 3, or somehow we got a magical therapeutic cure, therapeutic treatment. What happens at that point? How many of those things come back? Remember in 2008, when the market collapsed and everything went south and you had foreclosures through the roof and we haven't even gotten to that point of financial foreclosures. There's a second, just like there's a first wave of this and potentially a second wave, there is a second wave financially that is going to be coming. When people dig out of this and they start to realize, okay, you know what? Landlords, mortgage companies, they're going to need their stuff. They're going to need their money. You're going to see a rise in bankruptcies that is coming probably 3 to 6 months from now. And I would assume probably first of the year. And foreclosures. But in 2008, when all that happened, while we had a rebuild, what we lost in many cases wasn't replaced. Yeah, we gained this many jobs, but the jobs we lost were $40,000, $50,000 a year jobs. The jobs we gained were $12 an hour jobs, $10 an hour jobs. And that is scary to think that, did we lose some of these things for good?
The key question on economists' minds is just how temporary these job losses are overall. At the University of Chicago Becker-Friedman Institute, they believe that as many as 40% of the jobs lost during this pandemic are permanent.
That's the number right there. For all these other crazy numbers, this many people infected, this, that, and the other, and this is where we're going. I look at certain things that I can somewhat quantify about. So some of these things, people are going to get their jobs back. They're being furloughed, for their hours cut, whatever it is. Some of them are taking advantage of the fact that the government's giving you extra money and you're making more money on unemployment. Okay. But that 40% even if it's 25%, let's just say they're nowhere near that. They're off a decent amount. That's big. It's huge. That is huge. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. You can text the program as well. A lot of stuff. We're going to squeeze it all in today. More on George Floyd, Minneapolis, obviously the coronavirus. Talk a bit about that. SpaceX. So, producer Phil, we were trying to, like yesterday, I was arguing Gatos, who's my on-air partner for my local show, because he's like, why can't it fly in the rain and it's just rocket ship? And it was because there was lightning, right? That's why they scrubbed it.
That is correct.
My thought process. Stay with me, people. Trump went down there, and he's like, man, if we didn't do this, and we had to do it Saturday, I'd come down again. That was my thought process. Trump's like, it's another chance to get out of D.C., and I like Florida, obviously. But I was trying to explain to him, lightning is a different story than rain. Lightning could blow up your awesome space dragon, because that's what's called, the dragon. Lightning can do that. Rain and wind, I think they'll be okay. Lightning, ice, all bad things. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at me. Hope you're doing well. All right, check this out. Rough Greens. I talk about my dog Doodle. So all my dogs are on Rough Greens, but why it matters with me with Doodle and why I tried Rough Greens in the first place is because Doodle he's got on his hips, he's got these fatty tumors, and they're not cancer, but he struggles, and that's why. The other ones, my puppies are a year old and like 3 months old. They're puppies. They bounce around. They love it, but this was for him. Because he had ailments, he had problems, and Rough Greens to the rescue indeed for him. Now, he eats dry food only. You're not even really a fan of wet food, but those dry food, that stuff is meant to sit on shelves. It's not meant for today, it's meant for whenever. So Rough Greens is not dog food, you just sprinkle it on there, and what it has and what it contains with all natural vitamins, 20 digestive enzymes, probiotics, omega-3, 6, and 9. I mean, it's incredible. So I tried it. They say try it for 14 days. About 7 days in, I started to notice some real change. And by 10 days in, it was like he was a whole new dog. That's what I love about Rough Greens. If you love your fur babies like I love my little ones, and I talk about my reptiles, but I love my dogs. And Doodle, I spend as much time with Doodle as any of my animals. This is a game changer for you and your animals. $14.95. That's all they want to do. $14.95. It's Jumpstart. It's 14 days. Try it. Rough Greens can reduce or completely eliminate your dog symptoms. Now, how do you get it? Go to roughgreens.com/Chad or call 833-MyDog88. That's ruffgreens.com/Chad or call 833-MyDog88. Rough Greens. We make any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
I, you, he, she, it. Lucy is a girl.
Point of personal privilege, please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Shut up, boo. Ain't nobody got time for this.
This is the Chad Benson Show.
We know that they're not supposed to launch if lightning is about 10 miles away. This lightning was about 7 miles away, so it was very close. And if they could have waited about 10 minutes, they would have been able to launch, but you can't wait 10 minutes. You have to meet that time so that you can meet the International Space Station.
And that's the other thing I was trying to explain. Like, it was like, why didn't they wait 10 minutes? And I was like, okay, so this is like about precision. You know, this is a precision situation. You're leaving at such and such a time, right? That's why it was set at 4:33, because everything is about. It wasn't like, okay, here's the way Apollo's going to work. We're going to shoot you up in the air whenever you guys get to the moon. Everything was about precision. Landing at the actual moment that you said you were going to land, at the actual time that you were saying, down to the second. That's what this isn't like an airplane where, like, hey guys, we're going to be pushing off here in a few minutes, but we got to go back. and we're going to wait, got a little bit of weather. We're going to sit on the tarmac, and that's not what this is about. It was precision. Now, Saturday is when supposedly, and I say that, it's supposed to happen, SpaceX Dragon is taking off.
It has to happen at exactly 3:22 p.m. because it has to meet up with the International Space Station. But I got to tell you, the forecast is not looking great for Saturday at 3:22 p.m. right now. In fact, they're saying there's about a 40% chance of the weather being good enough for launch. If that doesn't happen, we're looking at a possible Sunday launch. If that doesn't happen, we're looking at a possible Tuesday launch. So we are potentially here at the Kennedy Space Center for quite a bit of time.
And think about that. If you are because they did everything, right, Phil? They got him in there. They got everything ready before they scrubbed it.
Yeah, they were even fueling it.
Yeah, they were fueling. So it's not like they're sitting there. And did you see the uniforms, by the way? Those are pretty awesome.
They looked like stormtroopers.
They look like And did you see how they got to the place where they go up the thing? It was a Tesla.
Well, of course it was.
So awesome. I'm like, that's great. But it's not like they're sitting around going, all right, today's go day. No, they get in there. They start fueling it. It's like they're doing everything. You're getting ready. You're getting pumped. You're going through everything. You're going through your checklist. And it's, all right, back we go. It'll be fun, though. I think it's going to happen. I think this weekend at some point it's going to happen. And like they always say, it's Florida, so, wait around 15 minutes if you don't like this weather. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet us. You can text the program as well. Still, last night, it was just an ugly situation in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. The killing of George Floyd, an unarmed black man. And they showed how originally on the arrest record or the file that they had for this, that he died of like a unknown incident or something like that. They put it in such a way inside of the file, and I'm thinking to myself, wow. And body cams and whatever else is there. I mean, I saw a lot of different angles. I have yet to see the part where he's fighting these guys. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Your Twitter, kids. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And was articulating very clearly how he was impacted, how his physical health was being damaged, and how he couldn't breathe. This is not an instance of 1 or 2 seconds where you're forced to make a split decision. This is like 5 minutes. It's 300 seconds, and in any one of those seconds, you could have decided just to stop. You could have decided to listen to community.
One of those officers could have told him to stop.
Yeah. I was talking to Brandon Tatum. He is a former cop in Tucson. He's also black. And we had a long conversation yesterday, and I'm hoping to get him on the show tomorrow. Good dude. He's been on a lot of shows, like been on, I think, Bill Maher and a bunch of stuff like that. And he's very pro-cop. Very pro-cop. And for him, the first thing out of his mouth was, these guys all need to go to jail. And I asked him, I said, dude, have you ever been in a position when you were a cop and you rolled up and you saw a cop that was out of control? He goes, no, but I was first into the force. There was a cop that was, and I just arrived, like literally second after I arrived, another more senior officer arrived. And a cop was out of control. And he goes, that senior guy went over and he thumped the officer, grabbed him by the neck, dragged him down. And he goes, but outside of that, he goes, I've never seen that. He goes, and you can't explain what took place. What in God's name was going through that officer's mind that he thought that was right? And I asked him about the knee, because I see that all the time, live PD, right? Like you see these guys. He goes, we get trained. He goes, in Minneapolis, I could be wrong here in the way that he phrased it, but he says, we are trained when, out here in Arizona, that it was essentially the shoulder blades down, unless it was a life or death situation with your knee but once you have somebody restrained, it's over. Like once that person is restrained, it's over. He goes, they used to be in Minnesota where they actually, you had to go through special training to even be allowed to use your knee in certain ways. And there was training for that. And I'm thinking, wow, that's just insane. Again, in a life or death situation, all bets are off, right? Like, I mean, I don't, if you're fighting with somebody to live, you're like, should I bite him? No, that's a different, this was none of that. This was, I'm on top of somebody with my knee on his neck and throat. This was, not only that, I'm going to sit here on him and just kind of mad dog everybody looking. And I thought, wow, that is just, it's nuts. Now, what's the next step, and why in God's name, especially the guy who was there, you see him, why is he not in jail?
Why is the man who killed George Floyd not in jail? If you had done it, or I had done it, we would be behind bars right now. And I cannot come up with a good answer to that question.
Yeah. Speaking of that, who are they? Because, we know who George Floyd is, right? In any of these situations, we find these things out. Who are they? Well, we're getting some answers.
ABC News has confirmed the white police officer leaning on Floyd's neck is Derek Chauvin. According to a police watchdog group, Chauvin was among several officers investigated after a fatal shooting in 2006. A grand jury later declined to indict. Also in the video, Officer To Tao seen holding back the growing crowd. Records show he was part of an unreasonable use of force lawsuit that was settled out of court in 2017.
And there was 4, so who were the other 2, and what was their role? Did they know, right? Because some of them were working the crowd. Did they know? We're going to find all of that stuff out. We're going to find out more about this guy, what his deal was. Was it racially motivated? Was he just an awful person? Did he think in some way, shape, or form that this was the right thing? I mean, we're going to find all of that out, but there is no doubt that he will be arrested and charged, I'm thinking, very, very soon. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. And tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Another 2.1 million jobs lost last week. So what does that mean? Well, I mean, you're losing jobs. How many of those jobs are lost or permanent? But then you got to look at the GDP. There's so many things that go into this thing, but we're at 40 million jobs now gone. Some of those will come back. Some of those may not come back. Some other places may grow. But the reality is this has hit us square in the cojones, and it doesn't look good.
Businesses are starting to reopen, but for a 10th straight week, more than 2 million Americans filed for unemployment benefits. New claims for unemployment insurance have declined each week since late March, but have not fallen below 2 million since mid-March. A new estimate of gross domestic product said the economy contracted by 5% in the first quarter, slightly worse than first reported.
And that's the good quarter, because this second quarter may be 3 times as much. That's ugly. And as we're reopening, I was reading an article yesterday say, people are afraid to spend money. They're hoarding cash because of the fear. And I've said that about the economy and we all participate in the economy, the fear factor of the economy is the fact that even if we reopen, unless we have a vaccine or a therapeutic, even if it's seasonal and we drop down to virtually no cases anywhere in the country, you will have a lot of people who will be afraid, even if they have their job, to spend any money because the fear factor is the second wave is going to cause another shutdown. Then you're going to have the people out there who are afraid to go out at all. So they're not going to be participating. So there's a lot that goes into this when you look at the economy. And then you're going to have a lot of people that are going to find out that they don't need you back at work, or you can come back. But here's the deal. We're cutting salaries across the board 15 or 20%, or we're going to cut hours. Or so there's so much that the trickle down and ripple down effect that it's going to have across the board, and the psychological effect. It's not just the singular, you lose your job, try to find a new job, but everything's okay. No, you may lose your job. You may even keep your job. But the fear of losing your job, and what is it, 70% of Americans, according to a new poll, are worried that in the next 6 months, they're going to lose their job. When you feel confident that you feel secure in your gig, to the point where you know you're not losing your gig, and if you did, you can get a job tomorrow, and that there's jobs plentiful, and that, in fact, if you went to look for a new job, even though you have a gig, that somebody may even offer you more money because they're looking and it's hard to find, you're more apt to say, I'm going to spend a little bit of money. I'm going to do a little bit of remodeling. I'm going to spend a little bit. I'm going to take a trip. I'm going to buy a bigger ticket item. That's far gone. Far gone. And even when we reopen this thing, and even if we found a vaccine tomorrow, I think the trip up the hill is going to be much different than people realize. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. You can tweet at us. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from every single one of you. I do. Oh, man. Tell you what. I was kind of bummed about not seeing yesterday. I was watching the old social media as everybody's flipping through in the whole 9 yards and watching this and watching that, and social media, because you get a lot. You can get a lot from social media, but you get a lot of crap. You got to learn to sift through it, and it's tough. And I have like an eclectic follow that I've got people who are comics. I follow everybody from Norm Macdonald to some of the most uber left people to some of the most uber conservative people, and everybody in between, and always trying to sift through craziness is nuts. And then you got the battle with Trump and Twitter and the big social media. I'm going to executive order social media. I mean, what the hell is, what are you going to do? You can't get rid of Twitter. You're not going to do any of these things. You need Congress. You need the FCC. There's so many. I mean, it's crazy and it's chaos. And social media can be great, and it can be a pain in the ass. It absolutely can be a huge pain in the butt. And we're talking about that because yesterday, on my personal page, somebody posted something to my timeline with, Chad, what are your thoughts? And the chaos and craziness that came out of it makes you just scratch your head. And I'm thinking to myself, this is why we can't have nice things. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. Text the program. Raycon's best earbuds around. And they're so awesome. Everybody takes my Raycons. The kids grab them the whole night. They all love them. But I love my earbuds. They're just, the noise isolating fit is awesome. Being able to hear when you talk to people, especially when I go and work out and do stuff. And if I want to listen to a book on tape or some music when I'm working out, I don't have to worry about the dangling wires or the stems. I don't have to worry about them falling out of my ears. I don't worry about any of that stuff. Comfort, 6 hours of playtime with the new E25s, and the cost, you will not find. First of all, getting something like these, normally it costs you twice, maybe 3 times as much. These start well under $100, and they're the best earbuds you're ever going to have. They are. And I'm going to save you more money right now. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad. When you do, you save 15% right there. Buyraycon.com/Chad. Buyraycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
Set Chad straight. Text the show 323-538-2423. That's 323-538-CHAD. Someone has to do it. Might as well be you. The Chad Benson Show.
Twitter chief Jack Dorsey doesn't want to police controversial content, going so far as to ban all political ads. But by making an exception and flagging 2 of President Trump's tweets about voting by mail, he unleashed a flood of criticism about whether his company is biased against the right, which he's admitted, but says his staff tries to resist. Twitter slapped a "Get the Facts" warning on the Trump posts, predicting fraud and a rigged election if mail ballots are widely used, citing information from CNN, NBC, and The Washington Post, which Trump and his allies view as badly biased against the president.
Social media is crazy. It's nuts, right? It is. And I don't. It is great, and at the same time, it's chaos. It is the Wild West, and at the same time, with the Wild West and the opening up of the West, you had the gold rush. It's lunacy. We live in a world now where it's all about cancel culture, getting somebody. The other day was Jimmy Fallon, right? Jimmy Fallon. Oh, my God, Jimmy Fallon. We're going after Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon even came out and apologized. People are speaking out now going, really?
One big-name star defending Jimmy Fallon, who apologized Tuesday after a 20-year-old Saturday Night Live sketch resurfaced in which he plays Chris Rock, his face and hands painted black. Jamie Foxx writes on Instagram that Fallon was doing an impression of Chris Rock. It wasn't blackface. On In Living Color, he says, "We played every race. Let this one go," he continued. "We got bigger fish to fry." Fallon Tuesday apologized for what he called an unquestionably offensive decision.
Just let it go. You can't. We don't. And we get something in our craw, and we want to show, hey, we're going to get to you. We're going to do something. So yesterday, I'm sitting here. I go on my Facebook once in a while. I've got the show page and I have my personal page. And before my show started to take off, we started to grow and do all this stuff. You know, my show page was kind of my personal page, and people would join that but then I separated the two. But I still have some listeners from when I first started, in the valley out there in Palm Springs and the surrounding area. So I was like, okay, they stay there, and I got zero problems with that. They're good, they've been listening for a long time. So somebody posted something on the timeline. Now, I rarely go to my Facebook anymore. I'm more of a TikTok guy, a little bit of Instagram. The show page I'll go to, but outside of that, I'm busy. I'm doing a lot of other things. So, and it wasn't me that posted. I didn't post it. Wasn't me. And it was about, Bill Gates and vaccination. I don't know. Just like whatever. It was like a meme, and somebody said, "Chad, your thoughts." And I didn't even have thoughts because I hadn't seen it. It was there for like 2 days. Somebody who listens to me here in Phoenix then proceeded to go, and this is what I love about stuff like this. Just attacks me. He's trying to get me fired because I allow somebody to post something on my Facebook, which I didn't post, and allows that to happen because I'm full of hate, and then proceeded to go on and tell me what a POS I am, how hateful I am, how ugly I am, and just goes on. Now, mind you, I have no idea who this person is. Calling the station here, KTAR out here in Phoenix, just calling them, letting them know. And I'm just laughing. I'm laughing. And I'm like, really? Like this, you have nothing better to do. You got another person who's I do 7 hours of radio a day, wants to take up something with me. And, what I love is the way that this is a conversation in the world where there is no accountability. which is you start now by telling somebody how stupid they are, how ugly they are, how fat they are, how ridiculous they are, just what a horrible human being they are. Now let's try to have a conversation. You just can't do it. And what should be a pleasant experience, like for me, is the only time I really go on Facebook outside of the show page is for, I have lizard groups because, I have my reptiles. I can't even do that anymore. Because the criticism, and that's all it's become. Social media has just become a Yelp for human beings to bitch, whine, moan, and complain and criticize. So I can't even go on the group pages I like because people will post a picture of their lizard and the first one's like, hey, that's a nice looking thing. And then by the time it's the third comment, it's what a horrible reptile keeper you are. Your lizard's fat and going to die. And then let me tell you how awesome I am at this, and criticize. And it becomes just ugly. You give voice to people. But with that voice comes some responsibility. And how about a little couth, right? Can you not just say, hey, nice looking lizard, and move on with your life? We can't do that anymore. Now it's all about destroying and canceling because apparently that helps people's lives in some way, shape, or form. I have never, ever in my life wanted to destroy or cancel anybody. And I had some stuff happen to me, kids. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
We're backing up we're backing up right now because you see the demonstrators just set the AutoZone on fire. Witnesses telling me that fire was set by a bunch of fireworks, and I can tell you one of the things I saw is somebody ran up there with a fire extinguisher and tried to put it out, and they pelted him with bottles and other kinds of garbage. There's some of the people who are clearly very angry. So we watch this go on throughout the night.
I'm broadcasting live. Call me Captain Obvious. Clearly, they're very angry. Really? You think? This didn't help last night. This did not help. Rioting, burning your community, attacking other people. This doesn't help. It does not help at all. Everybody saw what happened. Everybody wants justice. Everybody. People who are the most ardent supporters of police saw this and say, nope, that's wrong. They need to be punished to the full extent of the law. But then you get people out there, and a lot of times what happens? Communities trying to hold a protest. But you get other people there who are there for what? They're there to cause chaos. They're angry, some of them, but some of them are just there because they're there to cause chaos. And little spark ignites, and the next thing you know, it is destructive. That did not help last night.
The overwhelming number of people are demonstrating their First Amendment rights, their outrage, and their demand for a fair, just resolution of this case. And the few people who decide to turn it into a wrong direction are not helping the cause of the Floyd family. The Floyd family wants to see justice. They don't want to see somebody turn this thing into something that it really shouldn't be. What they want to keep the focus on is what happened to their loved one, George Floyd.
Yeah, that's what it should be about. Let's protest, make noise. Everybody should be in unison that the justice needs to be served. It needs to be fair, meaning we need to see this thing all the way through in the system, that in many cases has failed. Poor African Americans, people of color. But going out and burning down a Target and then coming out with a big screen TV does not help. It doesn't. What took place was absolutely appalling. You've got a guy who, may have tried to bounce a check or whatever they were supposedly called there, and he maybe had a few pops as far as his drink had gone, and that's what some people are saying, he was inebriated or whatever, and they go from that to they're on his knee, one officer in particular, for 9 minutes. He goes into distress and he dies. It's on video. And then you find out there's several other angles of it, and their whole thought, well, he wasn't resisting anything. People should be in arms. People should be pissed off. People should probably show social distancing. Just put it out there. But you had every right to be pissed. Absolutely. But then it becomes something that it shouldn't become. We don't need that. Nobody wants to see it. People in the community, and that's a lot of times what happens is a lot of people come from other parts of communities and they come there to raise hell, to cause chaos, to do something absolutely ridiculous because they're not interested in anything other than themselves and self-serving and see what I can do and da-da-da. And then they do something stupid. It ignites something. Next thing you know, you're burning down buildings, you're attacking people, all this stuff happens. And then you go back to wherever your community is and you leave a mess for those people who want justice, who knew him, who want this thing to be seen all the way to the end and the conclusion in a right way and having their voice heard to clean up the mess. We don't need that. Nobody wants that. And you don't know what's to come.
I urge all protesters, be safe, do the right thing, and make sure that Mr. Floyd remains the center of this and that we don't get distracted by somebody's momentary outrage. It would not uphold Mr. Floyd's dignity to do something like that.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Everybody should be pissed and outraged. Everybody. Everybody should look at this situation and be upset and frustrated. And at the same time, seeing this thing through in the right way without the kind of stuff that we saw last night is what we need to have happen. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. You can text the program as well. Yes, 2.1 million people filed for unemployment last week, down a little bit from the week before. Overall, though, since the pandemic started, 40 million people have lost their jobs. Some have, their jobs may never come back. Some, they've been furloughed, and they'll probably have the opportunity to come back, a good portion of people. But what comes next, right? Like, that's the big... We're at this point now where are we in the middle of the eye? Are we getting to the point where we're at the eye of the storm, right? So the big storms come, and they always talk about there's the eye of the storm, that calm in between. Are we going to have a second wave, or is it going to dissipate and break up? That's, we're hearing all of it. It's the second wave. It's this, that, and the other. I don't know. Could it disappear altogether? It is absolutely. There is a possibility that bracing for a second wave, we don't get a second wave. And there is the possibility that the second wave could be coming because it could get to the point where we see this thing slowly but surely go away, and then we have some calm, and then the second wave isn't much, if there is one. We don't know what the future holds, but obviously something is going to have to come out of this, and everybody's doing the best that they can, and that's guessing.
We often talk about the possibility of a second wave or of an outbreak when you're reopening. Mm-hmm. We don't have to accept that as an inevitability, and particularly when people starting thinking about the fall. And I want people to really appreciate that. It could happen, but it is not inevitable.
And that's good. It's not inevitable. It's not inevitable. It's a possibility. that it may come back, but not as bad. It may come back, but instead of seeing, it comes back more like a flu as far as the rate of infection. I mean, these are all things that are possible. Remember, we thought we were going to have 2 million dead. And yes, we've passed that 100,000 mark. And, Trump said, hey, if we can keep it under 100,000, that's good. I didn't think we'd get past 60,000, but we have. But I never thought we were going to get to 2 million. So it's not inevitable. But we still need to figure out how we get to the point where we have a therapeutic that we can really, really rely on while we find a vaccine. And that is who knows when. But we take the right steps. And this is the problem with what is the right steps? That's the problem, right? Like you hear Fauci talk about, hey, we can do a lot of things.
If we do the kinds of things that we're putting in place now, to have the workforce, the system, and the will to do the kinds of things that are the clear and effective identification, isolation, and contact tracing, we can prevent this second wave that we're talking about if we do it correctly.
But here's the problem with that. It's a novel virus. They know more than we do, but they're also in the same situation that they don't understand it completely. And Fauci said that over and over. I'm not the expert in this. I'm not an expert in this. In this particular virus. And there's a lot of things that he's learning and that all the other doctors and scientists across the globe are learning. Experts now say what? 6 feet may not be enough. What? Yeah. 6 feet. 6 feet. So we've been told 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet. Increasing evidence for SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, suggests that 6 feet, which the WHO recommends, is probably not enough. So we've been told 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet. Now that may not be enough. Xian Wang of the National Sun Yat-sen University in Taiwan, Kimberly Prather, and Dr. Robert Schooley of the University of California, San Diego, said a large portion of the COVID-19 spread appears to be occurring through airborne transmissions of aerosols. And that the 6 feet, it just may not be enough. So now you're like, okay, so you told me this, now it's this. And then it was over here, and it's the frustrating side of things of we're finding things out kind of as they do. And then we hear one thing and we go with it and we think we're doing it right, only to find out it's not. And that's the frustrating thing. I think the best thing we can do, and every doctor will tell you, whether it's the flu or it's COVID-19, washing your hands, trying not to touch your face, in particular eyes and your nose, is going to what? Is going to really eliminate probably 95% of what could infect you, and that's it. Good hygiene goes a super long way. But 6 feet, good God. Now it's not. I don't even know. And they're not really telling you. Was it 20 feet now? I mean, how are we going to social distance at 100 feet? At this point in time, 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at me. Wounded Paw Project. Love them. Talking to Ernesto tomorrow. It's weird because people are struggling. We were talking about, giving, and people are still giving and doing all they possibly can. But the focus of giving and stuff has changed to a lot of what's going on with COVID. But oddly enough, he's like, we're so busy because we have so many first responders that we're helping with the dogs. And he's got new dogs he's trying to, he's got to foster as they just finished out their thing out here in Phoenix. And it's a really interesting situation. But they need your help. And if you can give, it's an amazing organization. These animals are out there, and they're helping our first responders, our veterans who come home wounded and struggling with PTSD to rejoin society in such a way and have that part of them that is with them always. You can give in so many ways. Cash is great. You can go to smile.amazon.com and supporting group. But if you have an extra car, truck, RV, maybe you thought I was going to sell it, obviously may not be the time. Donate it. Get a great tax-deductible gift. Go to woundedpawproject.org to find out how you can give. That's woundedpawproject.org. woundedpawproject.org. You'll be saving a paw to save a life. Chad Benson Show.
Check out our Chad Benson Show Facebook page where you can hang out or hang your grievances out to dry. This is Chad Benson.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? Let's take a look at what's trending. Minneapolis, George Floyd trending everywhere. Everywhere. As it should. Disney World opening up, also trending. We'll touch on that a little bit later. IRS stimulus trending. Payments are going to be on prepaid Visa cards. And they're telling people, do not throw those away. You're going to be getting these. Do not throw them away. Oh, my goodness. Because you know somebody's going to do it. Jeffrey Epstein is also trended a lot yesterday. And the reason is they've got that new, 3 or 5 part series on Netflix about him and what we're learning and recent allegations, new stuff. It's another one of those things, not going anywhere. Is that ever going to go anywhere? Right? Are we going to always hear about it? What's the new stuff we're going to find out? Well, you're going to find out a lot, I think, from a lot of this. And when you open up this kind of thing, you find out that there's a lot more that you need to know. And that a guy like that who had money and power was able to buy secrecy, was able to buy all kinds of stuff, including his own justice and his own laws and his own island, has a lot more secrets, and I bet you were just scratching the tip of it. George Floyd on Twitter and the riots breaking out. Big time. That is everywhere right now. Delete Facebook. Deleting Facebook. Are we canceling Facebook? I always feel like we're canceling something. I didn't know why we're canceling stuff today. And then it's all has to do with Trump and the social media stuff and executive order and stuff like that. I don't have it in me to be super cancel culture. I just don't. My cancel culture is if I don't like something, I don't watch it, I don't engage it, or I don't go and frequent the place. Right? That's my that's the extent of it. I'm not going to march against you. I'm not going to send you a horrible tweet. I'm not going to demand that you be fired. I don't have the energy for that. I don't know how people have that kind of energy. Where do you get that? That's the stuff that is amazing. It's like the people that have the kind of energy to go out and to go after Jimmy Fallon or to try to get somebody fired or canceled or to go after that woman, who was obviously the Amy Cooper, even the woman that has filmed the video of George Floyd is now getting death threats and people are coming after. You got people on the crazies who are coming after on one side, the other crazies coming after the other side. You're only posting this because you want money and fame. And that's the reason why a lot of people do that. You take your camera and on your phone, it's not even a phone, on your computer, your handheld computer, you take it and your whole thought process is if this thing goes viral, somehow you're going to get famous out of it. But the thought process to just stew on stuff and go after people, I just don't know how you do that. Oh, my Lord. Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The white police officer leaning on Floyd's neck is Derek Chauvin. According to a police watchdog group, Chauvin was among several officers investigated after a fatal shooting in 2006. A grand jury later declined to indict. Also in the video, Officer To Tao seen holding back the growing crowd. Records show he was part of an unreasonable use of force lawsuit that was settled out of court in 2017.
So, now it's time to look at these officers. Have they done things in the past that should have raised, and I'm talking about real things, right? Because you'll hear stuff like, this guy's been involved in this, but if you talk to police officers, they'll tell you, I mean, everybody can file a complaint. That's part of what's going to happen in a situation like this. Again, we love to file complaints. We were just talking about that. We live in a world now where Yelp is everything. Yelp was Yelp. Yelp never helped. So people file complaints. But is it one of those things where every officer's got 5 or 10 complaints over the, 10 years, 20 years, 30, you've had, and this guy's got like 70, and you're thinking, there's an issue here? What I'm trying to point out was the red flags along the way that were completely missed. He's been on the department for 19 years. He's been involved, they say, in several police-involved shootings. Doesn't say that of those that he was the trigger or shot anybody, but he did shoot and wound Ira Latrell Tolles during a domestic assault. They showed up in an apartment in Minneapolis. Tolles grabbed for an officer's gun. Chauvin shot him in the abdomen. He and 5 other were responded to a stabbing in 2006, when Wayne Reyes, 42, allegedly pulled a shotgun on the officers, and one of the officers shot and killed, says one of them shot and killed. So, and then the other officers that that we've seen, because remember, there's 4 officers, we've only seen 2. His name is Tao. According to depositions, 2017, he gave depositions in a lawsuit that stated he, with the department, as a community service officer, he went through the academy in 2009. He was laid off for 2 years and returned to the department in 2012. There was an excessive force use in 2017. So we're going to find out all of these things. And by the way, that case was settled out of court for $25,000. So and the reason I want to talk about these kind of things is because did the department miss something here too? Right? Did the department glaringly miss somebody who was obviously a ticking time bomb? Was there somebody who you look at his file or her file, because we don't want to leave anybody out, but you look at this guy's file in particular and you say to yourself, oh my God, right? We expect officers to have complaints filed. We expect those things to happen. But this guy has got so many that we've got to have his own file cabinet. Because those things do matter. It matters when you look at the police and say, what in God's name are you guys doing? That you allow somebody like this, that you particularly thought in your own minds, but somebody you thought, oh my God, this guy's a ticking time bomb, and we're allowing him to go out and interact with people. He's just waiting. So we're going to find out more over the coming days of, and like I said, the 2008, he shot and wounded somebody. In 2006, he was at a place where an officer's shot, did not say him, said one of the officers shot. We'll find out more. But last night, not the way to do things. Was not the way to do things. Going out and destroying a community and areas of a community, going out and causing hell and lighting things on fire, going to a Target, attacking it, breaking things, bringing in baskets and push carts and trolleys and taking out TVs and lamps and everything you can get your hands on is not something that you need to be doing. That does not do anybody any good.
Overwhelming number of people are demonstrating their First Amendment rights, their outrage, and their demand for a fair, just resolution of this case. And the few people who decide to turn it into a wrong direction are not helping the cause of the Floyd family. The Floyd family wants to see justice. They don't want to see somebody turn this thing into something that it really shouldn't be. What they want to keep the focus on is what happened to their loved one, George Floyd.
Yeah. The Attorney General right there of Minnesota, Keith Ellison. Is this what George, wants everybody to do? Do you think George was out there is like, God, if only people would just burn this down and take stuff, that's how I want to be remembered? No, it's not. And it hurts everybody any more, and then it adds to the people in the community who are suffering. It adds to their suffer because in many cases, these people come from other parts who are there to cause hell and havoc. They're not there to do anything other than that. They didn't know George. It's ridiculous. You want justice and you want to be able to assemble and be pissed off. You want to be able to assemble and say the things that you want to say, to demonstrate that you want to demonstrate. But when you start doing this, then what happens is people go, I'm over it. I'm sorry. And then it starts to reinforce stereotypes. And then what you have are people who are behind you who normally, in cases right now, would be nowhere near. Oh man, it's always about the cop. Though we got to wait till everything. No, who have seen it, who understand it, who are behind you now, who are saying to ourselves, "It's a great time to have a conversation." Then you start doing this, and people start coming in, and they're like, no, what they did was wrong, but so was that. Got to do better. We do. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You tweet at us. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from every single one of you. I do. Let me tell you something, guys. Right? It may be the COVID-19, but it's kind of the COVID-15, 10. People are they're eating. They are. And it's tough. People inside, and this is what I've seen is people go to the extremes in a situation like this. So where they go to the extremes, like, well, now's the time that I'm going to work out, and I'm going to do this, that, and the other. I'm going to take the time to do some stuff. And then there's a lot of other people who are scared, and we eat our emotions. It's guilty as anybody else. Boredom, raising the hand, the whole 9 yards. What ends up happening is they reach for comfort. So they start eating a little bit of this. So you know what? I'm going to get these Oreo cookies, and I'm going to get this, and I'm going to get that. And, I don't need an apple right now. I'm not going anywhere, not doing any of these things. And so, as we emerge the summer body looks totally different. Looks totally different. And because we're enjoying it, right? We're sitting around. We got nothing else going on, and we're worried. We're frustrated. We're this, that, and the other. And, oh, man, I'll go upstairs. I'm going to get this. I'm going to go. And it's comfort.
Many people are finding comfort in binging on junk food during these stressful times. But how can you avoid gaining too much weight? First, stay hydrated. A study out of the University of Michigan found that poor hydration is associated with higher body mass index. And filling up on water can prevent overeating.
The other thing is to make sure that you're getting good nutrition.
Yeah. But when you're bored, you don't reach for an apple, right? You don't. Let's be real. When you're bored, this is a cookie. Oh, that tastes nice. When you're bored, there's chips. Oh. You know what? Maybe I'll have a drink here. Not like alcohol, but maybe you do. I mean, there's part of it.
Unhealthy junk food may provide comfort, but there are some healthy foods that can too. Try wild salmon, dark chocolate, and eggs to boost your mood without expanding your waistline. Finally, just because the gym is closed doesn't mean you can't work out. Some gyms are moving to virtual classes, and exercises such as burpees, lunges, and push-ups can help you keep off those pounds without any gym equipment.
It's never too late to make those changes that are going to keep you healthy.
Not just now, but years later.
Yeah. Now, I'll go play. I work out in the day, and so I'll go run around, usually about 45 minutes a day, and I try to do, sit-ups, and I use a lot of, like, the plyometrics and stuff like that. And I go to the gym when my gym's open now, and I haven't gone back yet, but I will. But it's tough, right? Like, I could do 100 push-ups, or I could watch this. It's tough. And when the stress of COVID-19, worrying about your family, maybe worrying about yourself, then worrying about your finances, your jobs, the future, comfort. Sometimes it comes in a cookie. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter, and tweet at us. I was reading the golf. So the PGA is laying out the Colonial's going to be 2 weeks. So 2 weeks, the Colonial kicks off from today. So the way they're going to work it is the caddies and everybody, there's going to be specific areas they're asking everybody to stay at. So you stay in these areas right here. The hotels and the specific places that they've got set up is going to be in a certain bubble-like area. You're going to be tested on a daily basis. They want you to practice social distancing. As we found out, apparently 6 feet is not enough, but the social distancing, not even on the course, and the food side of it as well, is they want them to eat the specific meals that they're going to have prepared for them. So to limit anything whatsoever, and golf is one of those few things where of all the sports that should have started up early, it could have been and should have been golf. Because you don't need, as we saw this past weekend, you don't need 1,000 quadrillion people. It went off pretty well, and it's not like you're hanging out with everybody 24/7 and you're tackling them and any of that stuff. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, they're starting, and it's funny because unlike the other sports, I have my TikTok and I have my Instagram and all that stuff. I'll go check that stuff out. Those guys are golfing together every day. So it's like they've been not playing, yet playing. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's Twitter. Car Shield wants to help you. Help you do what? Protect your car with affordable protection plans. Your warranty, you don't have one. Maybe you've got some electronics in your car, and maybe you have a warranty that wouldn't cover those. Car Shield has a plan for you. Car's a little bit older. You don't have those GPS and all that stuff, but what you do have is a car that you like and you don't want to get rid of, but you worry a little bit about the engine and transmission. Car Shield has a plan for you. You get 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while your car's in the shop. The shop is the shop that you choose. And the great thing is those plans start as low as $99 a month. You call them up, 800-CAR-6000. You mention code Benson, saves you 10%, and tell them specifically, be specific about the things that you're looking for and what you're looking to protect. CarShield has a plan for you. 800-CAR-6000. Promo code Benson saves you 10%, or carshield.com, carshield.com. Use that promo code to save 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
Being antisocial sucks. Hang with Chad's friends on Facebook, The Chad Benson Show. And if you just need some alone time, head on over to Twitter at Chad Benson Show. Either way, we can't wait to meet the real you.
The MLBPA is going to go back to Major League Baseball with a proposal of its own by the end of this week. Sources have told me it's going to be awfully interesting to see what's in their proposal and if it's as strident as Major League Baseball's was to the Players Association.
Yeah, it's Jeff Passan there talking about MLB, what they will do, what they won't do. And, of course, the big thing is, what are you guys going to take? Look, everybody's going to have a little give and take in this. And owners, they submitted their stuff, and players are going to come back with their own stuff. But there's got to be give and take. And what I'm seeing from the players is they don't want to really give up anything. Understandable. It's your money, right? You don't want to give up anything, but you're not going to be working a full season. You don't want a salary cap, so there's no salary cap. And in doing that, you understand that there's certain things that you have to give up, and we're in a much different situation than a normal year.
To have him coming out as strident as he was, as forceful as he was with this message, I think says a lot about the position of the players right now. They're mad. They're mad at the offer that Major League Baseball made, and they're not going to sit here and say, oh, we'll be conciliatory, we'll come and meet you in the middle. No, they want to go back to the player or to Major League Baseball and say, we're not going to accept this.
Then don't. I said it yesterday. I'll say it again. If people came to me today, right, and the powers that be, and say, you got Major League Soccer, NFL, NBA, hockey, Major League Baseball, we're going to have to get rid of one of them. My first answer, Major League Baseball. It's not even a, nope, thank you. No, you're yesterday. I like baseball, but I've missed, not like the NBA. I love hockey, love soccer, love golf, and I love the NFL. But out of all of those, I like baseball. It's okay. But if it doesn't come back, if the other ones are going, hey, good times. Good times. Great. Fine with me. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at me, text me, check out the Instagram as well. And, of course, go to TuneIn Radio app and grab the Chad Benson Show podcast. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
We're backing up right. We're backing up right now because you see the demonstrators just set the AutoZone on fire. A witness is telling me that fire was set by a bunch of fireworks, and I can tell you one of the things I saw is somebody ran up there with a fire extinguisher and tried to put it out, and they pelted him with bottles and other kinds of garbage. There's some of the people who are clearly very angry. So we watch this go on throughout the night.
Get in zone, AutoZone. Oh. That was the AutoZone that was being attacked. Is that what the memory of George Floyd's going to be. Now we're going to shift the entire conversation to, is there going to be another night of unrest? We're going to shift the conversation from where it needs to be, which is front and center with these officers. And we're going to shift the conversation to what's going to happen tonight. Is there going to be unrest? Is there going to be more rioting? Is there going to be more looting? Is there going to be more fighting? Is there going to be more chaos? Is there going to be more arrest? Is there going to be more violence? No. That's not what we want. No, it's not. You have every right to be pissed and angry, and you should be. You have every right to assemble, to speak your mind, to let it be known that this is unacceptable. Every right. But when you start to go from peacefully assembling, being angry, but being controlled, to chaos, to looting, then the message itself is being drowned out. And that's not good. That is not good at all.
The overwhelming number of people are demonstrating their First Amendment rights, their outrage, and their demand for a fair, just resolution of this case. And the few people who decide to turn it into a wrong direction are not helping because of the Floyd family. The Floyd family wants to see justice. They don't want to see somebody turn this thing into something that it really shouldn't be. What they want to keep the focus on is what happened to their loved one, George Floyd.
But right now, while that conversation's going on, the other conversation is, what's going to happen now? Is there going to be unrest tonight? You got people who are tearing apart a Target and stealing things, and there's fires, and that's not where the conversation should be. That's not where the anger should be. That's not and a majority of these people probably don't live anywhere in the area where this happens, because people love to come and cause chaos. Saw a guy last night, and they were talking to him on CNN, and he was showing where he got hit by one of the projectiles, like the rubber bullets. And he was talking about, well, we were on the north side of town, and we were upset about something that happened over there. And then we came over here, and then, with all this going on, then we found out that George had died. And I'm thinking to myself, so you came over 2 days after this had taken place and become a story, really, within 24 hours. But and I feel like that's not what we need. Justice needs to be served through the system that in many cases has been completely unfair. And that's probably an understatement. To people of color and to poor people. And in saying all of that, the conversation will, especially if tonight ends up being more chaos, will slowly move away from this to look what took place. Look what's happening. And the understanding and the anger that people across the country are feeling turns to frustration. And that's not what you want. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us and text the program as well. Ugly, ugly look for the economy. And I think that is an understatement. But new numbers.
Businesses are starting to reopen, but for a 10th straight week, more than 2 million Americans filed for unemployment benefits. New claims for unemployment insurance have declined each week since late March, but have not fallen below 2 million since mid-March. A new estimate of gross domestic product said the economy contracted by 5% in the first quarter, slightly worse than first reported.
That's ugly. What's the second quarter going to look like? I could not even tell you how ugly that's going to look. It's going to be ugly. And we still have this virus hanging out over there. And the what if scenario Is there going to be a second wave? As we emerge from this, economies reopen, people start to hopefully get into a groove, and maybe over the summer, much like the flu does, it's a seasonal thing, and it completely disappears. And then you've got the potential of a second wave, and with that second wave, is there going to be a second wave of closings? What would that do to the economy? But
we often talk about the possibility of a second wave or of an outbreak when you're reopening. We don't have to accept that as an inevitability, and particularly when people starting thinking about the fall. And I want people to really appreciate that. It could happen, but it is not inevitable.
And that's great. It's not inevitable. Nobody knows. I mean, when you look at this, we talk about it being, they say it's the novel coronavirus. Remember that first came out because it's new. The WHO says you don't have to wear a face mask, and you do have to wear a face mask, and it's not it's not transferable from animal to human. So and then from human to human, that doesn't happen. Then, it's all of those things. Then you move from there to, wearing a mask is good. Well, you don't really have to wear a mask. Nobody knows. Now you've got experts coming out today, new experts, saying 6 feet's not enough. Wait. This whole social distancing is predicated on 6 feet. Now you're telling me 6 feet's not enough? It's the unknown. We don't know if it's going to leave. We don't know if it's going to stay and just be one wave. We don't know if it's going to leave and come back. We know none of these things. And what we do know is we don't know. I'm not an expert. Fauci says he's not an expert. He doesn't know anything about this. Why? Because it's not been around. He can tell you everything about HIV and AIDS because he was a pioneer in that, but he couldn't tell you originally. Remember when HIV and AIDS was first discovered, they had no idea what it was. And then when they realized that it wasn't just a one-off over here, one-off, and this was something completely different, the thought process is within 2 years, we're going to have a vaccine. 4 decades later, we don't have a vaccine. We do not. Now, AIDS and HIV is far, far, far worse than this. And it is. Now, we've got therapeutics that mitigate if you got HIV today, your life expectancy is about what the average person's life expectancy is. Where 30 years ago, that wasn't even close to being the case. It wasn't. My cousin Ricky died of AIDS, and he came to my dad's funeral, and he was about 6'2". I say he weighed 140 pounds, 130 pounds, probably he had the smallest clothes you could get for an adult, and he was swimming in them. And it was one of those things where, again, it was such an unknown. You didn't even know how you really caught it. People were scared. But I just remember, I was talking to his dad, my Uncle Dick, and I said to him, later on, he said, how hard it was because, Ricky knew that he was going to your dad's funeral, Chad, but his funeral he knew was coming. And he goes, do you know how many of those funerals for his friends we went to almost on a weekly basis? So these things are unknown. We don't know what's coming out of this. We do know this, though, that the more that we learn, the more that we start to target these things down, the more that we can do that if there is a second wave, we can say, hey, look, here's the deal. We know that people who are morbidly obese with underlying conditions and people who are incapacitated and especially assisted living and nursing homes, they need to be absolutely shielded from outside as much as possible, but the majority of people under the age of 65 and those over 65 who are extremely good health, the chances of you getting this and not surviving are slim to none, so we can proceed forward and live our lives. And I think that's what the kind of leadership that we're looking for. Who's going to come out and say those kind of things and start to point in that? Because when you start to talk about stuff like that, that's what people want to hear. So they can say, okay, I can start planning as we move forward. Because we are learning more about this on a daily basis. But stuff does change, as we know. It changes on a second-by-second basis. But the things that we can actually look data-wise at, we can say, okay, this is the real data, not the data that's made up, not the data that you're cherry picking from. This is the stuff that we can look at and say unequivocally, this is what this looks like. So we can plan better going forward, especially if we know it probably going to be around a while. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. You Twitter, you tweet at me, you can text the program as well. My Pillow. Get your My Pillow. You're at home. Right? You want to feel comfortable? My Pillow's doing something awesome. They've switched over to start making PPE, so they moved all their production to that. And in doing so, guess what happens, kids? It's great for you because they've got to move stuff out of the warehouse, so you get a buy one, get one free opportunity here that is awesome. And I do mean awesome. Right? So you get a 10-year warranty with everything. Right? You get a 60-day money-back guarantee. Everything's made in the USA. And when I mean buy one, get one free on everything, the Supima My Pillows, the Giza towels and sheets, the roll and go anywhere pillows, the duvet covers, you name it, it's buy one, get one free. You go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Chad. Now, when you check out, here's something that's awesome, too. Mike Lindell's got a book. It's about his life, talk about a rags to riches story and a guy that was down in literally the gutter, struggled with addiction and all kinds of things to rise to where he is. It's an awesome story. If you order that book, he's going to throw everything in shipping-wise for free, and he's going to give you a $25 gift card towards your next purchase. It's that simple. It really, really is. Buy one, get one free on everything. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Boys, give me a bowl of chili with plenty of peppers.
One Mexican heartburn. Why don't you mugs grow up?
The Chad Benson Show, where independent, a la carte thinkers have a seat at the table and a voice in the dialogue.
I'll have what she's having.
This is Chad Benson.
That's exactly who it is. They did not launch yesterday. What? And there was a reason for that.
We know that they're not supposed to launch if lightning is about 10 miles away. This lightning was about 7 miles away, so it was very close. And if they could have waited about 10 minutes, they would have been able to launch, but you can't wait 10 minutes. You have to meet that time so that you can meet the International Space Station.
Yeah, so SpaceX, which is, of course, Elon Musk and NASA, it's a private-public partnership. They were hoping to get it rocking and rolling yesterday. People were excited. People were anticipating this. Elon's pumped.
We want to go back to the moon, and the moon to stay, have a moon base, like Moon Base Alpha, and have build a city on Mars and be a spacefaring civilization out there among the stars. This is a super exciting future that I think that's the kind of thing where you're like, yeah, can't wait for it to happen.
Yeah, he's pumped. That's why I say you got to dream big. He's a dreamer. A lot of this stuff that's going to happen, and he may live another 50, 100 years. Who knows with all the technology and stuff that's coming. You know, I tell everybody, 95, 100, and then we'll reevaluate from there. That's what I'm shooting for. The stuff that we're going to see in the next 50 years, all that stuff's crazy. But, you know, having a moon base, having a Mars base, all of that stuff, moon, that'll happen in my lifetime. Mars? But isn't that cool? He's pumped.
Everyone... from all walks of life, from all parts of the political spectrum in the United States and elsewhere, should be really excited that this is a thing that is made by humans, for humans, and it's just a great, exciting, inspiring day, and it's one of those things that makes you glad to wake up in the morning.
Yeah, it's awesome. That is so cool. And he said all walks of life. This is the first step. I said it yesterday. I'll continue to say it. The first step of the average person. Not at first. The average person, though, getting into space. At first, it'll still be expensive. $500,000, $1 million. But eventually, over time, it will crash and it'll be not as expensive at Disney, but it'll still be, it's affordable. It's going to take a while, but it'll happen sooner rather than later. Now, SpaceX, Saturday, next chance?
It has to happen at exactly 3:22 p.m. because it has to meet up with the International Space Station. But I got to tell you, the forecast is not looking great for Saturday at 3:22 p.m. right now. In fact, they're saying there's about a 40% chance of the weather being good enough for launch. If that doesn't happen, we're looking at a possible Sunday launch. If that doesn't happen, we're looking at a possible Tuesday launch. So we are potentially here at the Kennedy Space Center for quite a bit of time.
So we'll see. It'll be fun, though. It will be. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. For all the chaos, the lunacy, the COVID-19s, the horrible thing that it's done globally, and then, what's taking place right now in Minneapolis. And it's good to see something like this because it reminds us, A, how small we are, but also what we can do. And I think that's a good thing. Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And was articulating very clearly how he was impacted, how his physical health was being damaged, and how he couldn't breathe. This is not an instance of 1 or 2 seconds where you're forced to make a split decision. This is like 5 minutes. That's 300 seconds. And in any one of those seconds, you could have decided just to stop. You could have decided to listen to community.
One of those officers could have told him to stop.
Yeah, Mayor Frey talking about the officers who have since been fired from the Minneapolis police force, including the officer, as we find out more and more details about them, who was the officer who had his knee on the neck of George Floyd.
ABC News has confirmed the white police officer leaning on Floyd's neck is Derek Chauvin. According to police watchdog group, Chauvin was among several officers investigated after a fatal shooting in 2006. A grand jury later declined to indict. Also in the video, Officer To Tao seen holding back the growing crowd. Records show he was part of an unreasonable use of force lawsuit that was settled out of court in 2017.
Yeah. So they'll be looking more and more into this. The other two officers, not quite sure, because we don't really see them. We know that there was 4 fired. Were there other officers there? Some people say they were holding back. Was it part of what took place afterwards as the potential cover-up? There's a lot of questions, including the questions about the knee. Now, I spoke yesterday to Brandon Tatum, who's a former Tucson police officer. Now he does a talk show as well as appear, all over the place. And I think he's been on Bill Maher and Dave Rubin and several other shows. And it was very interesting when he talked about the fact that officers are trained with the knee in certain situations. And some states are different. And I think at one time they had training to use the knee in Minnesota in such a way, but you had to go through special training to use it. He said out here in Arizona, our training was from the center of the back, kind of the where your shoulders are, the center of your shoulders down is kind of where it goes. But once somebody is eventually subdued, you've got them, they're cuffed, then it's over. and never the neck unless it is one of those situations where you're fighting for your life.
That particular technique that was used is not authorized by the MPD. It is not something that officers are trained in on, and should not be used, period.
There you go. Now, one time there was. Like a lot of things. I mean, one time, when I was growing up, and then after Rodney King and stuff, there was a big, remember the chokehold was a huge debate. And, and cops will tell you in life or death situations where you're literally fighting for, if you watch Live PD, you watch any of these shows, you see what happens, and they'll always show that the Tom guy on there will always show situations where cops get into a situation where they're over, they're over their head because there's a couple guys and they're fighting and it's a life or death situation. At that point, all bets are off, right? This wasn't that. It wasn't even close to that. This was somebody who, for whatever reason, and we'll find that out in the coming days and week, decided that he was going to put his knee on an incapacitated man who was already in handcuffs to the point where eventually he died. I don't know what you call it other than murder. Now we'll get the report back from the police, the toxicology, all of that stuff. None of that means anything, right? Like, oh, what if he had drugs him? Doesn't mean anything. Was that worth it? No, it wasn't. What if he died of a heart attack? Died of a heart attack, why? Would he have died of a heart attack 20 minutes later if none of this would have happened? Or did all of this put in motion something? So questions will be answered, but regardless of whatever those reports say, the reality is 9 minutes on somebody's neck with your knee, who somebody's already in handcuffs, is unacceptable. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. We're over 100,000 in deaths here in America. 100,000. We have about 1.7 as far as people that are infected. When is this going to end? It's the great question that everybody keeps asking. It's $1 trillion question. When does it end? I don't think anybody knows. Fauci, but all, epidemiologists, virologists have all said the same thing. It's going to do its thing. It's going to run its course in hopes that we can change the course, which through the stuff that we've tried to do, I think we've changed some of it. And hopefully we find therapeutics and a vaccine for it. We may never find a vaccine. Those are questions that will have to be answered in not just, the coming months. The therapeutic side will be answered far before the vaccine side is. And I saw a lot of people don't want to get the vaccine. Somebody said to me yesterday, if they offered you a vaccine, would you take it? And I said, I'm on the fence. And by that, I mean, I would take a vaccine. I got no problem with that. But I understand why people would be leery of that. I do. I understand. Now, and what I want to know of the vaccine, is this one of those things where it's a forever vaccine? Is this just like a flu shot kind of scenario? I don't get the flu shot. I don't. I understand why people do. I just don't get it. Producer Phil, do you get the flu shot? Is that something you do?
No, it's not something I do.
Yeah, there you go. See, and it has nothing to do with what. I don't care if people get it or not. I don't think you're weak. I think a lot of people think, oh, you don't get it. It's one of those things where I think, oh, maybe I should get the flu shot, and then I never do. Something comes up, I go here. Next I was going to get a flu shot, but then all of a sudden I looked over and I was like, oh my God, McDonald's. It's me. But I've never gotten it. But I don't take a lot of stuff. Like, I'll take an aspirin for a headache, but that's never like, I'm a weird dude. And I readily admit that. I got zero problems with that. But the vaccine side, I understand why some people would be leery of it. I do get it. I understand the fear factor of why some people would be, because is this going to work, right? Like, now, the way the vaccines work and the trials work is, even if they give it to 1,000 people, expose them all, and none of them come down with it, it may be 6 months or a year before you ever have the opportunity to get the shot, for two reasons. One, after you realize, okay, it stops this vaccine stops the coronavirus from infecting you, you've got to make sure that 6 months from now, your eyes don't fall out. It's like, oh, it's great. Dude, Jim did not get coronavirus, but his eyes fell out. So we have a problem. So that's why it takes a long time during these trials, because you're looking for not just whether or not the person gets it or doesn't get it, but also whether or not there's the adverse, and there will be adverse effects. Just watch anything on television that has to do with, do you struggle with sweaty palms if you take such and such? And they tell you what it is, right? With a long name, but then they give it a funny name like Fuzzy Wumpkins. If you take Fuzzy Wumpkins, you may experience dizziness, dry mouth, excessive diarrhea. You know, your armpit hair will grow uncontrollably, itchy knees, and you're just like, whoa. But I would have no problem. I don't have a problem getting vaccines. I'm vaccinating the kids, the whole night. I have zero problems with that. The flu shot to me is just something I find to be like different. Like a vaccine is a vaccine. We're looking for something that I don't think it's going to be I think, to me, the way I look, it's going to be it's not going to be like polio where you get a shot and it's going to be, especially if it's seasonal. Yeah, probably have to get this every year. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You tweet at me, you can text the program as well. Love hearing from every single one of you. And of course, Trump battling with the social media. He's got an executive order. And I just sit there and I think to myself, you need social media. Is there some biases there? Yeah, and they've readily admitted that.
Twitter chief Jack Dorsey doesn't want to police controversial content, going so far as to ban all political ads. But by making an exception and flagging 2 of President Trump's tweets about voting by mail, he unleashed a flood of criticism about whether his company is biased against the right, which he's admitted, but says his staff tries to resist. Twitter slapped a "Get the Facts" warning on the Trump posts, predicting fraud and a rigged election if mail ballots are widely used, citing information from CNN, NBC, and the Washington Post, which Trump and his allies view as badly biased against the president.
Of course there's bias. Human beings, naturally we have biases. And when you allow, and I think one of the things that goes on in these, and I understand Trump's frustration, I do, and some people on the right, I understand their frustration. Is it underreported in certain situations? Absolutely. Is it overblown in other situations? Yes. The reality is it's one of those things where you're having somebody who is going to be policing that is behind a curtain, that there's no real situation where this is the framework for it. This is if it crosses this line, you do this, and that's for everybody, and we're going to police everybody. What you have is people that have their own ideas, their own biases, in many cases lean left, in some cases extremely left, who are going to be able to make these decisions and go with their biases. And in many cases, they overlook stuff. They don't do that. But when you get into something like this, you realize that you're opening up a can of worms. And if you don't do it for everybody, but you only do it for one, then you're going to get what you get, which is the executive order and the whole 9 yards. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. I love how everybody bitches about it, but they bitch about it on social media. This thing sucks. Tweet at me. Gabby.com/Benson, GABI.com/Benson. How would you like to save money? Money. Apples to apples comparison. Get that on your homeowners and car insurance. It's so simple. It's so easy. 2 minutes. Link up your homeowners and car insurance. And what they're going to do is, for the exact same coverage, are you paying too much? Maybe you've got the perfect coverage. I did for my homeowners insurance. It was perfect for the price and everything. My car insurance was insane. I got more and I'm paying less. Saved well over $1,000. Average Gabby customer saves $825 per year. That can be you. Never selling your info as Gabby. No annoying spam. No robocalls. Takes 2 minutes and it's free. Try it right now for your car and homeowners insurance. Go to Gabby.com/Benson. That's GABI.com/Benson. Gabby.com/Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Warning, no snowflake zone. Uninformed opinions are in danger of melting. The Chad Benson Show.
I think what keeps Adam Silver up at night is, are we putting our players and our coaches and those who might be more vulnerable with our older employees and staff, are we putting them at a risk that is elevated beyond what they might be dealing with in their everyday life?
Adrian Wojnarowski, Woj! Talking about the NBA. Adam Silver want to play. Juxtapose that against the baseball players, Major League Baseball, and they seem like they only want to play for every dollar they're owed, but not for an entire season. And they're going to fire back with their own proposal. But Major League Baseball and the NBA are totally different. And I think that, Major League Baseball's plans have been very vague. And here's the thing. This is where Major League Baseball is fighting. They're not even getting to the point where they've decided what the plan is going to be as far as how do we get everybody back? How do we get them ready to go? What kind of season? How many games? What's the playoffs look like? How many players can play? They're starting first with money, where the NHL and the NBA is like, all right, here's the deal. Let's figure out the plan. Then we'll figure out the rest later on.
I think one place the league is really looking at right now, Greeny, 20 teams, the 16 playoff teams, and then 4 teams in the Western Conference who are on the bubble: Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento, San Antonio. That is a focus right now on the board of what they're looking at, but they haven't decided, and they've still got more drilling down to do on this.
Yeah, they do. And baseball's advantage is they haven't started, so there's not the start-stop. Hockey, they've already got their plan together, what they want to do, how they're going to do it. They're going to play in hubs. They do. NBA's pretty. I think they're at the point now where the season's going to return, but it's going to look like this. Not everybody's coming back. These teams that have no chance, you're not coming back. We'll figure out the rest later. All of those things. It shows you just the different mindset. And I've got zero problems with wanting to get yours. But there's also a time and a place. We talked about it. 2.1 million people filed for unemployment this week, 40 million since the pandemic. And you're upset because you're due 7 million, but you may only get 1.5. But your money is guaranteed. And it's frustrating. It is. And that's why I look at baseball and I say, you are yesterday. And I have zero problems with people getting theirs. But I also read the room. And I just don't think they have done any of that. Reading the room. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at me, you can text the program today. It's a crazy day, right? Yeah, got the Trump and social media. What's going to happen tonight in Minneapolis? Is there going to be more unrest? We saw some last night as well in Los Angeles. Will that spread to different cities? Will it be a calmer night? I mean, just a lot of stuff to unpack. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Tweet at me, text the program. So grab the podcast where good podcasts are available. You'll find mine hanging around in there as well. Have yourself a great Thursday. We'll do it again. And, oh, what's that? Oh, it's Friday. I could see it. Night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.